Imagine you're booking a flight. After searching for a while, you finally find the perfect deal, a ticket for just $99. It feels like a steal, so without thinking twice, you click continue. But then something strange happens. Want to choose your seat? Pay extra. Bringing a checked bag? Pay extra. Want priority boarding? Pay extra. Within seconds, that $99 ticket quietly becomes $170. And the most surprising part is, none of this was an accident. It wasn't a pricing mistake or a hidden glitch. It was designed that way from the very beginning. Because today, many companies aren't satisfied with getting paid once. They've built their entire business around getting paid twice, and sometimes even more. Airlines do it. Video game companies do it. Smartphone brands do it. Even the coffee you drink every morning follows the same strategy. So when did buying one thing stop being enough? And why has making customers pay twice become one of the most profitable business models in the world? The moment you complete your first purchase, something changes. Most people think the transaction is over. But for many companies, it's only getting started. That's because the first payment is often the least profitable one. The real money comes from everything that follows. Once you've already spent your money, buying one more thing doesn't feel like starting over. It feels like finishing what you already began. That simple shift in psychology has quietly changed the way businesses sell almost everything. Take a smartphone, for example. You buy the phone, then you realize you need a charger, a protective case, maybe wireless earbuds, extra cloud storage, or a warranty. None of those purchases felt necessary before you owned the phone. But the moment it became yours, they suddenly started feeling essential. The same pattern appears everywhere. A cheap flight becomes expensive after baggage and seat selection. A gaming console leads to online memberships, downloadable content, and in-game purchases. One payment naturally creates another, and another after that. This isn't a coincidence. Modern businesses have learned that convincing someone to make a second purchase is far easier than convincing a stranger to make the first one. Once you've already committed, every additional payment feels smaller, more reasonable, and easier to justify. And that's exactly why, in today's economy, companies don't just sell products anymore. They design products that lead to another payment. The airline industry didn't invent the idea of charging customers more. What it perfected was how to do it. Instead of raising the price of a ticket, airlines began breaking a single purchase into multiple smaller decisions. The flight got you from one city to another, but almost everything else became optional. Want to choose your seat? That's extra. Bringing a checked bag? Extra. Need priority boarding or more legroom? Extra again. The ticket wasn't the final product anymore. It became the starting point for a series of additional purchases. At first glance, this strategy seems harmless. After all, every extra charge is technically optional. But that's exactly what makes it so effective. Most people don't compare the final price with the advertised one. They evaluate each add-on by itself. A few dollars for a better seat doesn't sound like much. Neither does paying for a checked bag or boarding a little earlier. Yet by the time every small decision has been made, the total cost can look completely different from the deal that first caught your attention. The success of this model didn't go unnoticed. Before long, businesses across almost every industry began adopting the same approach. Hotels introduced resort and service fees. Ticketing websites added processing charges. Food delivery apps separated delivery fees, service fees, and small order fees. Different industries, different products, but the same underlying strategy. Instead of asking customers for one larger payment, they discovered it was often easier to collect several smaller ones. Not every company makes you pay twice by adding extra fees. Some do something far more clever. They make the first product so affordable that saying yes feels almost effortless. But that low price isn't always meant to make a profit. Sometimes, it's meant to start a relationship. Because once you've bought the product, you're no longer choosing freely. You've entered a system built around future purchases. Take a home printer, for example. You can often buy one for less than the cost of a nice dinner. At first, it feels like an incredible deal. But sooner or later, the ink runs out. And replacing those cartridges can cost almost as much as the printer itself. The same pattern appears with coffee machines that require branded pods, razors that need replacement blades, and water filters that only work with specific cartridges. The first purchase gets the product into your home. The next purchases are what keep the business alive. This strategy works because replacing the product feels far more expensive than buying what it needs. Once you've already invested in the system, staying with it feels easier than starting over. And that's exactly why some of the cheapest products on the shelf can become the most expensive purchases over time. The product was never the destination. It was the beginning of a much longer spending journey. If paying twice feels so obvious, why do millions of people keep doing it every single day? The answer isn't because people are careless. It's because the second payment rarely feels like a new decision. Once you've already bought something, your brain starts protecting the choice you just made. Walking away feels like wasting your original purchase, while spending a little more feels like completing it. That's why buying an extra accessory, unlocking a premium feature, or paying for a faster option often feels surprisingly reasonable, even when you never planned to spend that money in the first place. Companies understand this psychological shift remarkably well. They know that the biggest obstacle isn't getting customers to make another payment. It's getting them to make the first one. After that, every additional purchase feels smaller by comparison. A $20 add-on doesn't feel expensive after you've already spent hundreds. A premium upgrade seems minor next to the cost you've already accepted. Without realizing it, your sense of value quietly changes. That's why paying twice doesn't usually feel like paying twice. It feels like protecting a decision you've already made. And when businesses understand how people think better than people understand themselves, the second payment becomes one of the easiest sales they'll ever make. Most people think a customer is worth whatever they spend today. Businesses think very differently. To them, a customer isn't just today's sale. It's every future purchase that customer is likely to make. Long before you buy anything, companies are already asking a different question. How much money will this person spend over the next few years? The answer to that question shapes everything from pricing and discounts to marketing and product design. Imagine two customers. The first buys a single $100 product and never comes back. The second spends only $40 today, but returns again and again, buying accessories, upgrades, replacements, and new products over time. Even though the second customer spends less at the beginning, they're far more valuable in the long run. That's why many businesses are willing to earn very little, or sometimes almost nothing, from the first sale. They know the real profit isn't in the beginning. It's in everything that comes after. Once you understand this, many business decisions suddenly make perfect sense. Huge discounts, free trials, welcome offers, and low introductory prices aren't always about generosity. They're often investments. Companies are willing to sacrifice money today because they expect to recover far more tomorrow. The first payment isn't where they measure success. It's where they begin calculating your future value. The smartest companies don't just want your next payment. They want to make sure you never have a reason to leave. That's why many products today are no longer designed to work alone. They're designed to work best with other products from the same company. A smartwatch works better with a specific phone. Smart home devices connect more smoothly within the same brand. Cloud services sync effortlessly across one ecosystem, but become less convenient the moment you switch. The goal isn't simply to sell you more products. It's to make every new purchase feel like the most logical choice. Over time, leaving that ecosystem becomes surprisingly difficult. It's not because you're forced to stay. It's because you've already built your digital life around it. Your photos, files, apps, subscriptions, accessories, and settings all work together. Switching to something else doesn't just mean buying a different product. It means giving up familiarity, compatibility, and convenience. The cost of leaving becomes much bigger than the price of staying. This is why some of the world's most successful businesses focus less on making the first sale and more on making the next decision feel automatic. The strongest business isn't the one that convinces you to buy once. It's the one that quietly makes every future purchase feel like the obvious choice. The biggest change in modern business isn't what companies sell. It's how they make money. For decades, success meant building a great product and convincing people to buy it. Today, success is increasingly measured by something else. How many opportunities that one purchase creates in the future. A single sale is no longer the finish line. It's the beginning of a relationship that businesses hope will last for years. That's why products are becoming services, purchases are becoming memberships, and ownership is slowly giving way to ongoing payments. The goal isn't simply to make customers spend more today. It's to make tomorrow's payment feel just as natural as today's. When millions of people continue making those small follow-up purchases, businesses don't just earn more money. They create predictable, long-term revenue that investors and companies value far more than one-time sales. And that's the real reason this strategy has spread across so many industries. Making customers pay twice was never the destination. It was simply the first step toward building a business where one purchase leads to many more. Understanding that shift changes the way you see almost every price you'll encounter in the future. The truth is, paying twice isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes the extra purchase genuinely adds value. But the moment you stop noticing why you're paying again, you've already lost the most important part of the decision. Because the most successful business strategies aren't the ones that force people to spend more. They're the ones that make spending more feel completely normal. The next time you see a surprisingly low price, don't just ask yourself, "Can I afford this?" Ask a different question. Is this the first payment, or just the first of many? That single question can completely change the way you buy, because it shifts your attention away from today's price and toward the true cost over time. Companies will always look for new ways to increase what every customer spends. That's business. But once you understand the game, you stop seeing purchases as isolated transactions. You start seeing the system behind them. And sometimes, that's all it takes to make a better financial decision.